I have 6 o'clock. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. Starting with a roll call, I am Karen Morgan, present.
Art Martinez present.
Roger Wendell, present.
Dave Whitman present.
Randy Little, present.
We are all here to have a quorum. Thank you all. Are there any disclosure matters for tonight? I'm seeing none. Moving on to changes to the agenda. Anybody have suggestions? No.
Do we have an extra agenda?
There is one up there on the. But it up. I don't know if it would be a change to the agenda, but we did have a request not to have a vote on the overlap consent resolution. So
Okay.
I want to take that off.
I would rather leave. Well, let me read it. Where are we?
It is,
Discussion and vote. So we can hold the discussion and the presentation. And no vote.
yeah, the request was to defer the vote.
So if anybody has not seen their email of today, the developer asked people to vote on the Bend Metropolitan District. So any objections to taking that off?
Nope.
Good, because you don't really have a choice. Okay. Public comment. Like to start with people in the room. Reminder that we have. Doesn't say that, 5 minutes for public, 5 minutes for public comment, and we shall go around.
Anybody want to go first?
No, go ahead, Alex.
All right. If that's okay.
Yes, please.
Good evening.
I'm sorry, wait, before you start, and can you state your name for the record, can you slide that mic down toward this end?
Alex Plotkin, resident of the district, former board director. Dream Mountain board members, members of the public, even though it took some time and deliberation, and I sent a copy of this to y'all. It is good to see that a malpractice counterclaim has been filed against the former district council, Ms. Timmons. The allegations stated in the recently filed complaint are numerous and great. Amongst them are items such as Timmons did not have an understanding of Colorado state law related to the internal operation districts. During her representation of the district and at a public meeting, Timmons made allegations against directors of the district that they were mishandling documentation for the purposes of ongoing litigation with Big Sky. Representations made by Timmons and against the district at a public meeting were a violation of contract, privileges, and fiduciary duties owed to the district by Timmons in the state of Colorado. And further down in the claims of relief, the district has sustained damages associated with these breaches. Now more than ever, you need to deliberately study and review the virtual mountains of documents and evidence related to the Big Sky legal matter because of the above and other factors. I was the director who spent countless hours on legal research and had tried to bring the results to Ms. Timmons' attention. One of the key findings in that research was in 2 minutes of the meeting at which one of the plaintiffs in the Big Sky litigation stated that they have multiple ways of getting sewer service. To my recollection, Ms. Timmons had failed to clearly and promptly present this evidence to the court, amongst other things. Mr. Henderson also clearly outlined a number of other legal claims by the Big Sky plaintiffs and the relevant retorts and points to consider for each one on his blood. Have you read it? To remind you all, it is stated on the district's website, a director has a general common law fiduciary obligation to the district. This obligation does not extend to each individual member of the district, but rather to the district itself. As a fiduciary, the directors have the duty to exercise the utmost good faith, business sense, and astuteness on behalf of the district. Did you study the facts of the legal case against Mr. Henderson and the court's decision in that case, as was stated on his blog? When it comes to the ruling in the Timmons case against Mr. Henderson, one might deduce that the court said something along the lines of what was presented by the plaintiffs, Timmons, was essentially nonsense. While what was presented by the defendant, Mr. Henderson, is in fact the truth, in my humble opinion. Some of the information has been available to the board for now years in the form of emails, documents, notes, recordings of prior meetings, legal filings, the entries on Mr. Henderson's blog, as well as the current district's legal counsel, Mr. Woods, who was specifically brought in to replace Timmons. Timmons, along with the former director Hannigan, had chosen to become a witness for the plaintiffs in the Big Sky matter. The defense attorney became a witness for the plaintiffs in a legal matter in which the plaintiffs claimed 100 million plus in damages against the district. Have any of you, aside from Director Morgan, actually studied the numerous legal resources pointed out to you repeatedly by the former directors and Mr. Henderson, who were directly involved in the proceedings and the research related to the Big Sky matter? If you have not, then how can you make the best possible decisions related to the legal matter at hand? Some of you are new to this, but instead of just relying on the game of broken telephone and getting your legal bearings from others, you should be reading the documents and doing the research yourself. If you're not, then why are you here? Why are you not directing the legal counsel in the Big Sky matter to attack and vigorously dispute the numerous dubious claims made by the plaintiffs? Are you ready for the trial? The current board has missed an opportunity after an opportunity to invite some of the key witnesses, again, Mr. Henderson, Mr. Baker, myself, into an executive session with the proper privileges applied. And judging by what's available to the public eye, the board has failed to study information, as pointed out to you again and again, available to you. Some of us had to go as far as to file an amicus brief just to get some of the key information in front of the judge. Why did the litigation counsel not do so? Why the plaintiffs allowed repeatedly to resort to essentially personal attacks, and why has the court not been clearly presented with the key facts of the case? Read the information in front of you. Mr. Henderson's blog has more than ample collection of summaries on the legal and political proceedings of the district. He had put those together on his own time without getting paid a cent. Again, if that's okay, about 30 more seconds. Thank you. Timmons and former Director Hannigan had chosen to become witnesses for the plaintiffs in that matter. Hence, discrediting them in the legal matters is paramount to strengthening the district's position in the Big Sky matter. Then use the information available to you and redirect the court's attention to the key facts of the case. Doing anything else is doing the disservice to the district constituents, who have repeatedly stated their opinion on extraterritorial service, which is to say, no. Thank you for your time. Sorry about going over.
Thank you very much. Anything to say? Mhm.
My name is Joan Poston, and I am an unincorporated Jefferson County. I'm here to address something that I guess you're not going to vote on. Okay, just a second. My timer just got messed up. You're gonna have to let me. So what I've come to address is the discussion, and now not vote, to request an overlapping district with this board and the Lakewood district that has not been set up yet. I had sent an email to the city of Lakewood because I was confused. I did not know whether they had set this metro district up yet or not. I do know that it had been discussed, and I thought it had been set up to be a district to look into mosquito mitigation last year. And I am in the process of looking for that minutes and such right now. I have been assured by Mr. Parker, who is with Lakewood, that it is not a special district yet. So I'm having a little trouble understanding why we're discussing coming together when the district isn't there yet. So here's my concern. I have been concerned about this property at 4th and Union for over since April of 2022, when it was sold. The reason why I'm concerned is because, in my opinion, the land is not fit for a habitation and to have people on it. This is just my opinion, and it's based on historical references. But I am a medical technologist and a microbiologist and have worked in labs, and I have seen other kinds of situations like at the Arco factory out here in Globedale. And I actually did an awful lot of studies with drawing of blood for lead in children there when I was hired by the city 20 years ago. I don't think that this land has been properly handled. And one of the reasons why I came today is to say to you, on July 28th, Supreme Court ruling came down. This is the Chevron ruling. And I do believe the Chevron ruling is going to change some of the things about this property. And the reason is because the federal center and the EPA there turned over the mitigation of this property to the Colorado Department of Health. Department of Health and Environment. And I don't believe they have the jurisdiction to do that. And one of these things that is going to come out of the Chevron rulings and stuff is exactly what organizations and some of the people can do without congressional approval. So I do believe that this land has a problem. I think I have addressed it in the past to some of you all. I know that in the past you have looked into having the land tested. And I sincerely believe that that is still something that you're considering doing. I appreciate your consideration, and I want you to know why I'm doing this. I don't have any financial stake in this. I'm not even a part of this water area. What I do believe is that we need to consider children and consider futures and consider that sometimes infill is not the proper thing to be doing. So thank you very much for your consideration. I appreciate this. I have sent emails to the city of Lakewood about the situation, and you know, people, I know you've done this in the past. In the past, you've said no. Please think about saying no again.
And you say you sent emails to the city. Have you provided emails to this particular group?
I have not sent emails here. No, I've done public comment from time to time, but I have never sent an email. I have in the past not sent emails for a lot of reasons. Mostly because I end up, like with Mr. Parker, having people give me gobbledygook bullshit answers. And I don't do well with gobbledygook and bullshit.
Would it be possible to get a forwarded copy of the emails that you were sending to the city?
I have only sent one.
Why? Can we let you guys catch up after we'll continue the public comment?
Okay.
Okay, I'm actually, I have an out of town guest. So, and believe it or not, I was asleep. I only woke up in time.
I will follow.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'll be brief. I'm Marianne McGee with McGee Becker, and we represent the applicants who are organizing the districts with the city. And we have requested deferral of any consideration today because we are working with the city to revise the plan, and so thought it was not really reasonable to ask you to weigh in and approve anything until you knew what you were looking at. And so obviously the limits of the service plan on how it would overlap are going to be important to your deliberation. And so as we work through those revisions, we'll be in touch with Dylan and make sure that before you are in a position where you have to make a decision, you have the information before you enter to the application. So I'm here if you want to ask me any questions, but no. sit down and give you back your time.
Okay, thank you for the explanation.
Certainly.
Hey. If we could move to the people online and raise your hand if you have, would like to make comment. I see Leadmill first, if you would like to unmute yourself.
Good evening, Board of Directors.
Good
I
evening.
feel bad. I don't have a good speech like everyone else. It's like, oh my goodness. Now, my understanding is former Board of Director and former attorney is now the plaintiff's witnesses. Is that what I heard? Wow, that sounds like a lawsuit, another one lawsuit. Isn't this amazing? And then I don't know what happened to the board packet that we usually have access to that wasn't included on these the agenda. I don't know if it's not going to be included, but it was always nice to see that because we got to see the budget and all that stuff. All right, I'll continue. I'm kind of embarrassed that I wrote this up now. Let's see. I know you waited a month just to hear me again, or maybe not. Hello, Dylan. Hello, Sam. Hello, audience. I didn't expect this. Busy agenda tonight. I hope everyone studied the board packet and are on top of it. I also hope the new board members were able to review the Ravine Bridge analysis written by James Beckwith, dated August 2023. It's located on Green Mountain's website. If you didn't have a chance to read it, I will refer to page 10, paragraphs 2 and 3, which I've done numerous times. I know you guys are tired of it, but I'd like to refer to it. Mr. Bob Tennant, construction inspector for the city of Lakewood, stated, quote, the city of Lakewood owns all of the Ravine Park, footbridges, etc., while Green Mountain Water Sanitation has an easement through the subject area. It is wholly owned by the city, end of quote. The report further states on or about August 27th, 2020, Fidelity National Title rendered a title report. The title report certifies that the city of Lakewood, Colorado is the owner in fee simple of the lands. There are no exclusions for water or sewer pipelines or bridges and trestles spanning the ravines. My point is, what are we doing here again? Another agreement trying to make Green Mountain Water customers liable for park structures that are owned by the city of Lakewood. Enough. As a utility, Green Mountain Water has easement rights, so let's take care of our pipes before we have a catastrophe. After all these years of negotiating with Lakewood, and they just keep coming out with more and more unreasonable demands. Let Lakewood take care of their structures, their park, their open space. All right, Big Sky never seems to surprise us, do they? Green Mountain Water customers, they do not want to settle. They always have a Big Sky has always had an alternative service provider, yet they insist Green Mountain Water provide their service even if it's out of their district. How in the world can anyone do business with an entity that continues to sue Green Mountain Water? We won the lawsuit. The customers have spoken numerous times throughout the years. Green Mountain Water has no obligation to provide service outside the district boundaries. I don't know if you're going to, I think you took it off the agenda on the Metro District, but I'm going to reference it also. Green Mountain Water also has no obligation to help fund the Metro District. Our future neighbors on contaminated land should not be forced to pay outrageous Metro District property taxes for the next 30 plus years. How do we know that the developer has not already included the infrastructure cost in the purchase price of the house, then double dipped the charge, the buyers, the infrastructure cost again? And since the Metro District Board consists of developers only, the homeowners has no idea and never will know if they've been charged double for the infrastructure. All right, I think that's it. I'm very confused. Alex, my goodness, you got me so confused. I'm tongue-tied. Thank you. Have a good evening, guys.
Thank you. Anybody else online like to make public comment? I don't see any hands raised. So going once, twice, 3 times, closing public comment. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. And we can proceed with approval of the July 9th minutes. Anybody have any comments for that, or I will accept the motion?
I approve minutes for
Okay, and
Randy Little.
okay, I sent my comments in. Would you like to make a motion to approve then?
I'm making a motion, yes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Director Little motions, Director Martinez seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you all. On to financial matters. Expenditures and investment reports.
Okay, again, thanks to Doug for working with me so closely on this. Everything appears to be in order. We do have our typical cash balance on hand. And I think the district can be commended for that because we don't have to float bonds or anything. We're in good financial shape at the moment. That being said, a couple of things in the financial report jumped out at me, which wouldn't be a surprise to anybody having listened so far this meeting. Our legal fees are considerably higher than what we initially budgeted for, but that's to date, but that's for obvious reasons. Some of the things we've been talking about. Contracted repairs out on the street are a little bit higher than we had anticipated. And this is due to a couple of emergency patch and asphalt operations due to main breaks. And something that caught my eye too that I didn't quite understand, and I was emailing Doug, the district accountant, back and forth. We're below budget on our sewer use charges, which didn't make sense to me because our water use is really high so far this season. But apparently it's based on the fact that they look at water usage in the winter and we were considerably lower than normal. So we haven't caught up in that regard. But those are the 3 main things that jumped out at me. Otherwise, the budget, expenses, everything looked pretty much in order. Like I mentioned, those 3 items that jumped out at me, some expenses we didn't anticipate when we budgeted at the end of last year. So all in all, in summary, we're in pretty good shape at the moment.
Thank you for the report. Is there a motion to approve
Motion to approve.
expenses and investment report? All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, Director Martinez makes motion, Director Wickman seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you all. I had a note here to discuss the budget rates and the capital reserve. It is time to start thinking about the next budget year. Doug will be getting into that. We have not followed up on the financial committee for how we were structuring the fees from last year. So my suggestion is to just continue on as we were last year. And for example, there was a discussion as to whether the additional fees we are increasing to take care of this backlog of infrastructure that is overdue, or I guess I should say, for our new directors. Here's where we're at. We have roughly, as of today, $80 million of infrastructure that is overdue for repairs. We were trying to figure out how best to structure fees and collect payments and how we were going to handle that. Last year, we increased our budget for that infrastructure repairs, and we had a corresponding rate increase. we can do that with putting a little note to say we are having this extra fee for infrastructure. We just rolled it into our existing capital reserve fund and it comes out as a percentage base on your water. So I'm suggesting doing that again with another increase to set, to get our infrastructure done. I'm figuring, I'm doing back of the envelope calculations that if we have $80 million, if we do $8 million worth of repairs a year, that'll still take us 10 years to catch up. And by that time, we will have another $80 million worth to do. So we're not catching up, but, we need to accelerate our timeline on that. So I suggested, to Josh that that would be a good starting spot. I wanted to bring it to your attention. And, if Josh is online, has anything to chime in, but if anybody has any questions or better ideas, that's where I'd like to start the budget this year. And we can work from there once we see numbers. Ideas,
Nope,
questions?
I think it sounds reasonable. I'd like to continue in that direction.
Okay, Josh, did you have anything to add?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, great. Sorry, I'm remote as well. I'm just recovering from a bug I had over the weekend. Just wanted to play it safe. As of right now, we don't have what Denver Water or Metro Wastewater is going to send over to us as far as increases go. So Doug and I have begun preliminary discussions on what that would look like as far as the rate increase goes. And we can get you that information here in the coming days.
Okay, all right. I think it'll be more meaningful once you've got it all together, because the overall cost increase is what people will be looking at for the average bill, so.
I wouldn't mind meeting with Josh and Doug just to get the specifics on this, once you nail it down, so that we have a kind of an idea percentage wise of what an increase would be for our constituents, our
Right.
customers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I.
We'll know some preliminary numbers from Denver around September 11th, I think is when the meeting is set for, with the distributors and Denver Water staff. So we'll have somewhat of an idea about then.
Okay, maybe mid-September, you and I could meet informally with Doug.
We typically see a draft of the agenda, the budget in the October meeting. Is that right?
Yes.
So that we're on schedule for that.
Okay.
But yes, anytime. I know Doug's and Josh are always available. Okay. That's all I wanted to throw out there. If you have any other ideas, please let the people in charge know. Okay, district manager report.
Okay. Sam, let me know when you have that up.
All right.
All right. So as always, the first slide here is just our routine maintenance that staff works on: valve maintenance, hydrants, flushing, all that good stuff. So that's moving forward. We did have 3 main breaks in July. All 3 were due to aging, corrosion. We had one on Montana that was from 1972, one on Route from 1960, and one on Maryland as well from 1960. So those are starting to show up a little more. We are still under the average as of right now for 2024, but the winter months are coming, so we'll see where that takes us.
Josh, I had one question.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, during my financial analysis or report, I alluded to Jewel and Union. What made that
Yes.
so expensive, or what was the deal there?
So it's the mix design that is used on those major roadways. They're going to a product called SMA, which typically is on a highway. It holds up really well to traffic, potholes, things like that. So it's not readily available. And when it is, everybody's kind of scrambling to get their little portion of it. So that's the main reason for the cost. If it would have been a normal mixed design, it would have been significantly lower. So
Yeah, just for clarification for those listening, Jewel and Union, the main break came out to $42,000 roughly, but it's because of what you just described. And it just jumped out at me in the operating expenses is all.
Yeah, they had to mill down. So we had to do a temporary patch first and foremost. Then they had to come through and mill that down 2 inches. We had to temporary stripe it, traffic control, all that stuff kind of will roll into that cost. But then the final overlay of the SMA is where the most of the expense comes from.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not challenging it. It was just a point of interest in the report.
Yeah, no,
So
I was just
appreciate
hoping
that.
to
Yeah,
get a little explanation in there for you.
thanks.
Moving on, current reviews that are still outstanding. 11907 West Alameda Parkway, which is the car wash. I did send the plans over. I think it was mid-July for board review. Karen had some comments. We did have Olson, one of our on-call engineers, review those plans as well. I handled most of the comments back and forth with their engineering team to get it to our standards and Denver water standards. Olson performed a final review of that and approved it. So they are requesting that the board sign off on the cover sheet there tonight so they can begin their project.
Okay, did everybody have a chance to look these over? Any comments, if we will vote on approval before I sign?
One thing I will note, it is all service line work, so there's no district infrastructure that's being added as part of this project. It's just they're increasing their tap size to meet the demand for the car wash.
Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve.
Thank you, Director Wendell, a second.
I second it.
Thank you, Director Martinez. No, there was no discussion, all in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you. And what is the date?
There's a 13.
24 and done. Thank you, Josh, for following up on all of my questions. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Moving on to, go ahead.
No,
Fletcher Miller School is up next. They had some final comments from Denver Water, working out some easement alignments and things like that. So they're very close as well. Same situation. We'll get the final plans to you all to take a look at prior to approval for them as well. Federal Center, we met with Tri-Hydro and Miller Associates, along with staff comments, Karen, board director comments, and compiled a question list and recommendations that we would like to see as part of the final report. So they are compiling that right now, and that will be a deliverable sometime, I think, in the next week or so. So there's plenty of review time prior to a September meeting if you wanted to go ahead and have a public Q&A during that regular meeting.
okay. I guess we'll see when it comes down. Did you have a meeting with Tri-Hydro then in the last week?
Yeah, we sat down with them,
Okay.
got some clarifications on parts of the report, just cleaned up some details about who was working for who, things like that. So it's
Okay, it's set to go. Thank you very much.
Yep, absolutely.
All right.
And then I'll let Sam take over here on the 1031 project. We did get the monitoring back from JVA.
So we did flow monitoring for a section of pipe at Union and Mississippi. That confirmed the anticipated flows that we were expecting to see based on our current hydraulic model. So we are maintaining the current status of the downstream pipe being above capacity where we would accept an additional tap on that. So we've provided them with the report and the information that we would not be accepting taps until that flow threshold is below 0.7 D over D. And notified them that there may be cost sharing options available if they would like to discuss that with the board.
Okay,
For upsizing the existing pipe.
So we're currently over 70% or would go over 70%?
But we're currently over the 0.7 D over D, and we're not over 0.7 D over D in everyday flows. That is derived from the highest peak seen at the metering station below, during a 2013 storm event. That saw a peak of 7 million gallons, 7 million gallon flow. So because we don't know where that I is coming from, it's evenly distributed across the entire sewer collection basin. So until we get more refined data of where that I might be coming from specifically, we don't have the ability to change.
What does I stand for?
Inflow and infiltration.
Okay.
Essentially any unanticipated flow due to storm events, non-meter dumping, if there were to be a connection from a storm sewer, sanitary sewer or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
are there plans, is there a way to study that? That's not a flow meter.
So that is a flow meter, but it needs to be a flow metering in conjunction with having a storm that would reflect
Okay,
an I. So
I see.
we didn't get any kind of a substantial event during our monitoring this year that would allow us to make any changes to that I portion of the model.
I see.
The standard flows that we were seeing confirmed the standard flows, peak daily flows that were anticipated matched our existing model. So prior to us scheduling any pipe replacement, we'd like to continue with the flow monitoring to see if we can further refine that I model so that we don't end up replacing pipe that has plenty of capacity, but is currently not miscategorized.
What's the timeline on that? Like you're waiting for, it sounds like you're waiting for a storm.
Basically, we'll continue scheduling flow monitoring during the spring months, hoping to catch some kind of an event that shows an I, so that we can refine the model in that way.
That puts them off for quite a long time.
It puts them off for us scheduling that as part of our routine replacement. If they are interested in discussing a cost sharing agreement with the board,
Okay,
then you might entertain doing that ahead of that schedule based on having a cost sharing option.
I see.
Remind me, who was the day on 1031?
That I don't know the name of the developer off the top of my head, but it's the property just north of the swim club on Union Boulevard.
All right. It was like 10 to 12 units, I
I think it was 12 single family homes.
Right. Well, I don't remember who the party was.
I don't recall the name of the developer.
So, given what's going on with the weather these days, and it seems to be getting worse and worse. Are you putting into place a contingency analysis that as time goes on, you may get a bad storm X and then next year it could be an X plus Y?
So the storm that it was based off of was the 2013 storm event that flooded Boulder Canyon. It's a 100-year flood.
100-year flood, yeah.
So our previous engineer felt very confident in that number as being a very conservative buffer to put in there for extreme future storm events.
Because I think we're
Yeah,
heading down that.
Yeah. We've been mainly dealing with the developer's engineering firm, so we don't, all of our communication's been through their engineers to this point.
It seems like every time you turn around, somebody's always saying, well, we planned for that, but we got bit in the butt by this, exactly. This,
And
and
that's
that's what
why,
100 year, we planned for 100 year, but yeah, we got a 500 year storm. Exactly.
and that's why we built this contingency and have, we feel confident with that. Flow based on that 100-year storm. And then further by setting 0.70 over the, limit.
So if we get to a point in time where we don't have a storm that you could base anything, figures on, correctly, your recommendation would be to go back to the developer and say, look, we need to maybe negotiate a cost sharing or you pay for it.
Well, I think, you know, we do our best to try to refine the model and to, budget wisely. We don't want to be replacing and upsizing pipe that in the long term is not, facing capacity issues. But because of the way that this model divides out that I equally throughout the system. We would really like to refine it since it's such a large portion of the system. I think the opportunity to work with the developer to replace it might present an opportunity where we might move forward with type upsizing ahead of that schedule. But ultimately, that would be a discussion for the board of directors to have.
Well, thanks for taking care of it. Sounds good.
All right, moving on to our 2024 district infrastructure replacement projects. The water line replacements have begun. It started over off of Coors Street by Warren and Baltic to accommodate the school to have that line in and not affect traffic over there. So that is moving along. We've had a couple of hiccups with a fire hydrant placement in one resident's yard. They weren't happy with the proposed alignment, and we've been working with them to kind of make everybody happy in that situation. So that is moving along. As these projects get further into the schedule, we're updating their webpage we have on our site so they know when their equipment's going to be moving into their neighborhood, things like that. Water outages are still being dropped at the doors, so nobody's out of water without notice.
Sounds good.
A update on the ravine crossing, that is still in the design process. Respect reached out, said they had met with additional contractors over there. And they also had a geotech firm come out to check the soils on the south end, because that was not done as part of the first go around. As that was just going to be repairing the abutment, doing some soil nails, things like that. So completely moving the structure is going to take a little bit more work. So I think they're pretty close. They're supposed to deliver something to us here in the coming days. I'm going to actually reach out to them tomorrow, see exactly where they are.
Okay, that has been waiting for a little bit.
Yeah.
To encourage them a bit.
Yep. Now that we got the flows worked out, we don't need to go any larger than the 8-inch. That got a lot of the headaches involved with the casing pipe sizing and everything else. So,
okay,
kind of a unique situation on that one. I wanted to provide an update to our pink pump station, which is over by St. Anthony's Hospital. We budgeted last year for a backup generator to be put on site over there just because of the demand on the pump station. That has been delivered. It is set out at the pump station. We just have not tied it into the electrical yet. We're gonna wait till irrigation season's over, just so we're not taking any risks that are unnecessary to get that thing online.
That was the one identified that would be affecting that vet center development, correct?
As far as the pump sizing, yes, that would be something we're gonna talk to them later on about when we get to that level of
Okay.
design. So, but
Okay.
the just having the emergency generator there now is a big big plus for the district. That's going to take a lot of the stress off the surrounding pump stations that feed that zone redundantly. So power outages, things like that, that's just going to be a large help to us. Won't be on the back of the mind as much as it is today.
Sounds good, thank you.
All right. And then finally, Sam and I are going to meet here probably later this week, I would imagine, to get started on running the forecasting inside of GIS to see where we're going to go next with our 2025 replacements. And with that being said, I'm requesting that RG and Associates continue to do our design work. They spent a lot of time refining our contract documents so that everything is laid out. There's no questions. Change orders are going to be kept to a minimum, things like that. They've been great to work with. This first year, you know, we had some things to work through, but it's going to go at a much faster pace for 2025. So requesting that we keep them on board as our design engineering team.
Sounds good to me. Any other comments from board? All right, anything else, Josh?
Yeah, one small thing we did put out the job application for the entry level technicians. It's on Indeed. It's on our website. I also have it on the Rocky Mountain Rural Water Association. They were the most cost effective and reachable place out there. Red Rocks they've gone away from having a job board. They actually use a firm like Indeed. We've had a lot of traffic on Indeed with it. So I do have two pretty viable candidates for the entry level that I'd like to offer jobs to hopefully tomorrow.
What was your selection? What was your selection pool like? Did we get? Typically, the people who are applying, we got a lot of spam, and then people we knew personally on Indeed.
Yeah, we really tried to refine it so we didn't get a lot of spam, and it actually worked. We got some like heavy equipment operators, we got some like concrete truck drivers, things like that, which is somewhat close to what we're looking for. We do have one applicant that is word of mouth, which in our industry, talking with other district managers, that's kind of the bread and butter. One of the applicants that I'd like to offer a job to was strictly from Indeed. He lives out in Golden. His family's in the industry back in California, so it's you know, he has that drive to push towards that type of a career.
Okay. What happened to LinkedIn and AWWA?
AWWA, they were very expensive to put on, and we did not do LinkedIn just because of the targeted traffic we had on Indeed.
How many qualified applicants do you think you got through Indeed?
We got about 7 that I reached out to, and only 2 responded back. I can extend it out to LinkedIn. It's just in our experience, from other applications we've had out there, it's one and the same. You get a lot of repeat traffic.
We didn't find that before. We found a whole new category of people when we were searching for a manager. So it's a different job, but, I think in future, it'd probably be worth doing. I don't know how many people will look at our website or the rural network if we are in the middle of Lakewood, you know?
Do we get anything from SDA?
Oh,
They,
it could be posted there,
they do have a jobs board.
you know?
Oh, I did not know SDA had a jobs board.
Well, Josh, are you satisfied with these 2 finalists?
For the type of job that we're looking for an entry-level technician, absolutely. And that was also kind of another reason I didn't go the LinkedIn route, was because of the skill set and type of applicant that's going to be applying probably wouldn't be on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I can't speak for the board, but I trust your judgment on this.
Um,
I'm
I'm sure-
happy to share the resumes and the applicant information if that's something you'd like to see.
No, I don't want to see it.
No, I'm sure that what you've got is fine. I would just like to encourage to cross all those different platforms if we can, so that you get the most available to choose from.
Yeah, the Rural Water Association, it's a little misleading. It's more of a localized network. They're like a little more close knit than AWWA would be.
You know, your personal connections, do you make connections with the other water districts? I'm thinking, you know, we could steal from other districts. Lakewood.
Yeah,
It's the-
there's a lot of talk of that. So
it's the
you know,
honor
and
thing.
yeah, and in fact, one applicant did work at Bancroft last year, and I reached out and he just went radio silent. So
All right, well, it sounds like you're a go, you're set for that.
yeah, and then and on that topic, Rick Amer just recently retired on August 1st. So we do have a 3rd position open right now. And I can send that out via these other networks as well for that.
Was Rich kind of mid-level, or where was he at?
Rick was he was a senior technician. He was here for 15 years, 16 years, something like that.
He's retiring, did you say?
Yeah, he retired on August 1st.
He's been a longtime employee, we'll be sorry to see him go.
Yeah, he was our go-to for leaks to help out customers and save them money on wasted water.
But 15 years, he must be bundling para from somewhere else or something. I mean, not to get into his personal finances, but I would believe you'd have to work longer than 15 years here.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I mean,
just gonna
you're
hop in real quick, Josh. I'm sorry.
go ahead.
So yeah, Rick was here for 19 years. He's about 3 months short of 20. Just want to throw that out there.
Sorry
Didn't see you online, Doug, sorry, we've been referring to you before too, sorry about
Yes, sorry, I was quoting you earlier, Doug.
that. Okay, well, is that closing that one out then, Josh, you all set?
Yeah, I'm set.
Very good. We still have to catch up with you on staff organization, and so hopefully those new hires, those were not needing to be reorganized or anything, because those are entry level, but we'll catch up sometime, we'll get to all
Yeah.
this.
Yep, and I just finished up job descriptions, so I will have that to you and Roger here in the next few days. Kind of
Okay.
excited.
Great.
All right, thank you. We can move on to director's matters.
Can I use this as an opportunity to ask some questions of our guest here that may have information we don't know? I'm curious, since obviously the federal center didn't happen today.
That would, if you are opening up another public hearing or public discussion or doing anything, that is not typically what we do, as you know.
I know, but as,
So if you would like to make a motion. And we are not on, I don't, use anybody here asking about it, or anybody here for Ravine Bridge is next? Is that what you wanted to discuss?
no, I want to ask Rich before he leaves. It's scheduled to be on the city council on August 26th.
Can you delay or catch up with him later and we can do the Ravine Bridge? Sorry, let's stick to the agenda. We have an agreement drafted with Lakewood for, I don't know what, on the Ravine Bridge. For new directors, if you are familiar, if you've had a chance to catch up on that issue. We have not been looking at it. Last we did look at it, there were, we got stalled with proposed changes, what we wanted to do with it. We are now working on just putting our own replacement in. Any new thoughts on the agreement per se? It's everything going on track for, as you heard Josh say, we're just replacing. Good? All right, come up with anything. Let me know, we'll schedule a talk again. Is there anything that else we need to do for that?
I would ask either for, at some point, comments on the agreement, proposed changes, or a vote on it at some point, just so it's not a
Hanging out there,
lingering action item. Yes.
okay.
Commit to that by next meeting or for the next meeting?
Yes, sure, we can put a vote on it next meeting. I do not have any proposed changes. I would just be voting to kill it right now because we have not agreed on anything. So do you want more time to look at it?
Yes.
Take a look. It's been posted on our website for a little while, so it's up there. Okay. Vote next meeting. Okay. So that is that. Josh already talked about the submittal. So I think we can skip that unless anybody has anything else. Was this 11907? Was that the car wash?
Yes.
Yes, so that is done too. Onward to the lobbyist contract, I have an appointment that is not yet, so in the next week, so I am unable to update you on that either.
Do you think the fee will be similar to last year or have gone up?
I don't know, and that depends on whether or not we want, I would like to get prices for
Different levels of
different
service?
levels. I would like to be a little bit more proactive, which will increase the cost. So I need to find out what that would be. Interesting statistic that I was just reading, lobbying costs have gone up. They said that because of one party rule, that some of those contentious bills don't get killed by themselves by the legislature, so costs have gone up on lobbying 50% in the state. Cause you can track all that. Somebody tracks all that. So I guess that includes us. Any other questions? Okay. We are on to the discussion for the Bend overlapping district. Since we are not voting on that, that will be deferred until they are getting organized, as was explained by Ms. McGee before. But we're scheduled for a presentation tonight on some other side of the story by the Colorado's for Metro District Reform, who is represented by John Henderson tonight. So I would like to do that since he got all prepared, and we can follow that with any other discussion and questions.
I have a question. I think they're really quick.
Please, Dave, please ask your question.
Okay.
Out of order, out of agenda. You know you do this every time. Go ahead.
I don't know what else they answered. Does she know? It is supposed to go for a vote on August 26th. City council was voting for the Metro District.
I'm sorry, just, this is Mary McGee, to understand the question. Are you saying a vote on August 26th on the organization of the district that you were contemplating overlap consent on?
Yes,
No,
it's not happening on August 26th
no.
because it's scheduled to.
I-
Lakewood City Council has it scheduled.
Well, let me just take a look, or I can text somebody who might know.
Yeah, well, I'm just curious.
I haven't looked at this.
If they,
And there won't be any paperwork out. It's not the 26th yet. I mean, it might be on the schedule, but they won't have put any packets up yet.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what I would say is that the original schedule and the reason the overlap consent request had come to your board
Right.
is because there was a schedule to be on a hearing for August 26th, but
Right.
there has not been notice published of that hearing, and the service plan itself is not ready to come forward. So as far as the applicant is concerned, there is no public hearing on August 26th.
Yeah, there you go. There's my
that
answer.
makes a difference.
They won't be there.
Didn't take that long.
Okay.
Now I feel better.
I'm sure you do. But you've opened the floodgates. There is another hand raised.
She is a representative of the applicant.
Ally
She's the one that
Meister?
spoke at the last meeting, I believe.
Did you have something to say? You can unmute yourself.
Yes, can you hear me? I was just gonna follow up in response. This is Ally with Lincoln. We delayed our submittal to answer your question. So I think after we came to the board meeting last month, we circled back with the city and our planner, Travis Parker, and we made the decision to delay the formation of the Metro District. So we're still working on a service plan, but we're now targeting a May election period in order to provide more time for collaboration.
There we go.
You say May?
Well, they're trying to do the Tabor elections,
Yeah.
and the Tabor election will be in May. Thank you for your indulgence.
Mr. Henderson, I believe we're ready for you. Thank you for joining us here tonight.
Yes, thank you. Great to see you all again. I have my PowerPoint online. I don't know if you all can see it yet or not.
Not yet.
I don't know if the staff can help me with that. If they can share the screen.
I believe you can click to share your screen and it'll send me a request.
Nice tie, by the way.
It's been a while since I had this one.
Is that giving you an option to request to share screen?
Let's see. I'm not seeing anything yet.
So
Oh,
down
wait.
on your down on
Yep.
your bottom bar, there should be a button that says share.
Yep.
If you click that, it should send me a request to share your screen.
Okay, I've got the share button. I don't see share the screen.
Just click on that share button.
Okay. Well, that didn't work.
Oh.
Let's try it.
Well, I feel calmer already.
Can you see it now?
Don't have anything popping up. Just click on, if you just click on that green share button, what does it say?
Yeah, let's go back.
You're good.
Yeah, I've got the I've got the options down at the bottom that are standard with my Zoom, and there's a square box, but I don't have anything green. That I'm seeing.
Okay, so if you hover over that bottom bar, you
Yeah.
should have in the middle section of that bar, there should be a share button.
Yeah.
See that button?
Yep,
Click
yep.
that button. Click on the
Okay.
icon.
Yep, I have it. I'm not seeing share screen though. I have share my. Let's try this. This isn't exactly.
There we go.
Okay, we'll work with this. It's not perfect, but we'll work with it. Okay, you can see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, great to see you all. My name's John Henderson. I've been before you many times since 2018, but for the new members, in short, I'm an attorney, Colorado attorney, also have a master's in public administration. For the last 8 years, when I was a new Solterra resident, I've been working on Metro District issues. And for the last 4 years, that's all I've been doing. For the first 4 years, I split my time. My day job was with the Colorado State Public Defender's Office. And my work during the evenings and weekends, as some of you know, was all spent on Metro districts. Took me 3 months before I was, my admission to the bar was processed to connect the dots regarding Metro districts in Solterra. At that time, it was very hard to find documents. Easier now, but still a challenge in some areas. But long and short of it, I'm here to share information with you regarding overlapping districts and Metro districts very briefly in order to orient you when this issue comes up again. Again, all of my work is volunteer, and I have experience serving on various land use boards, including Inland Wetlands Commission, Advisory Commission to Dulles Airport, HOAs, and currently the acting chair of our planning commission here in my town. Contents. What I'd like to do is just give you a real quick intro to Metro districts and apologize for the formatting with this particular version. But second thing I'd like to do is talk about the overlapping resolution, how it creates overlapping, it supports the creation of the Federal Center Metro District, and presents you with a decision about whether or not you want to supply service. And then the question timing, what's the hurry? Brief discussion about the two kinds of elections that are being will occur with this Metro District application. Okay, 3 minutes on Metro districts. How do we get from here to here, which many of you will recognize as Solterra? It starts with this individual, this gentleman, a developer. He buys the land. Where does he get the money? Well, he either has the money, his own resources, his own capital, or from partners, or from a bank. But he has the money, he buys the land. He then puts the pipes in the ground. And I refer to the infrastructure as pipes in the ground because it's just an easy reference, but this includes everything from the suits to the hard hats. Getting the applications in front of the city council, planning board if necessary, getting the approvals to build a new development, and eventually putting the pipes in the ground. Where does he get the money for this? Again, he has it to begin with, either from his own capital, from investors, or from a bank. Obviously, when he buys the land and when he puts the pipes in the ground, there are no residents. He then sells a developed lot to this person who builds the house. The developed lot includes the price of the land, the price of the pipes in the ground, and profit to the developer. And in the traditional mode, before metro districts in Colorado, in most of the rest of the country, and in some jurisdictions here in Colorado that do not have metro districts, that's how the developer makes his money. He sells the developed lot, recovers his cost for the infrastructure, the cost of the land, and makes a profit when he sells it to the home builder. The home builder, of course, builds the homes, sells the homes to you, and you pay for the cost of the developed lot plus the cost of the home that the home builder put on the lot. So again, how does the developer get paid for the pipes in the ground? Because that's what metro districts are about. Well, as I said before, in both cases, the developer has the money to begin with, either his own capital, which appears to be the case with the Fed Center development, or through partnerships or through a bank. But he has the money to begin with. The residents aren't there. Again, in the traditional way, the developer sells the developed lot, and the residents pay for the pipes in the ground when they buy the house. The industry average for that cost nationwide and in Colorado, according to the Special District Association and the Home Builders Association, was $30,000 to $40,000. Since we've been advertising that, they say the price has gone up, but in any event, that's the ballpark that's out there. Now, since 1981, when the Colorado Metro District statutes were revised, and most recently, since 2000, in abundance, the pipes in the ground have been paid for, according to the industry, with Metro District financing. And Metro District financing, when you boil it down, is the developer loans money to the residents at an interest rate, and at some point in time, that loan is then refinanced into a bond, and the residents are now paying interest on the principal of how much it costs to put pipes in the ground, plus the interest that's accrued on the developer's loan, plus the interest on the bond. So doing simple math, it appears that that might be a little bit more expensive than the traditional way, but that's still controversial, at least from the industry's perspective. Then I say, or both. And what we have found in many districts, Solterra was one example, we paid for the cost of the pipes in the ground when we bought the homes and paid for the developed lots, and then we paid again for the same cost in the Metro District financing. So there is an issue as to whether or not there's double dipping. Again, not our concern, but that's some of the controversy regarding metro districts in Colorado. Metro districts, which is why we're here tonight, began with a service plan, and you've heard that they're going back and going to revise the service plan that was initially submitted in May. We'll look at what was in the service plan, and obviously you'll want to keep your eyes out to see what that changes. But one of the points that is important to make it at this point in the conversation is, what are the roles between the developer and the Metro District when it comes to building the community? Well, we know from the service plan, and we know from the process in getting developments approved through the city, that the developer is the one who buys the land, not the Metro District, the developer. The developer is the one who gets the money to put the pipes in the ground. The developer gets the approvals from the city, site plans or the plans to build the development, and of course sells the developed lots to the builder. And in that process, at some point, the developer who has owned the land, puts the pipes in the ground, conveys the infrastructure, the streets, the pipes, whatever it may be, streetlights, to the city, to the Metro District, or in this case, perhaps to Green Mountain. And that is the theme, one of the themes of this resolution is, ladies and gentlemen, we, the developer, are going to put the pipes in the ground. And once we have complied with Green Mountain's regulations on how to do that, we're going to turn it all over to you, Green Mountain, and those pipes in the ground and everything to do with providing sewer service is Green Mountain. The developer has nothing to do with it. The Metro District, on the other hand, is there to finance repayment of the costs. So I said earlier, the way it was done before and in other parts of the country, that repayment took place when you buy the house. The residents arrive, they buy the house, they pay the home builder for the cost of the home and reimburse the home builder for what he paid to the developer for the cost of the land and the pipes in the ground. Well, Metro District says, in theory, you're not paying for the pipes in the ground when you buy the house. That's on the a la carte menu. We're taking that out and you're paying that separately through the Metro District. Again, the data seems to suggest you're actually paying for it twice, but let's assume in theory that it's carved out and you're paying for it exclusively only once through the Metro District. The Metro District is there to repay that cost. It's also there to operate and maintain the district property, whatever that might be, that's conveyed by the developer. Basketball courts, swimming pools, tennis courts, playgrounds, what have you. And then, of course, the Metro District imposes taxes and fees to repay the debt to the developer for the pipes in the ground and operations and maintenance. Now, during the developer's presentation on July 9th at 1:24:30 during the tape time, they essentially said the same thing. They were assuring you that the Metro District is not building the development. It does not have land use authority, which of course it doesn't. That agreement, that contract, that relationship between the city and some entity in building the development is with the developer. It's not with the Metro District, because most of that's happening, of course, before the Metro District is even formed. And they said, in quotes, it's truly just a financing mechanism for repayment of the cost to the developer. You'll see why this is important. Second category of discussion, the overlapping resolution. In the other version I had, portions of this were underlined, so I'll do it, try to lead your eyes to it. This is an excerpt from the resolution. First paragraph basically says Green Mountain is a special district, yes. It says in section B, no special district may be organized wholly or partly within an existing special district providing the same service. Two elements there. One is the territory, the physical geographical boundary can't overlap. They can't be the same or in the same area. In this case, obviously, they are. The federal center is within your district boundary. And so if they formed a metro district, you'd have a cake layer, one on top of the other, physically by way of territory. That's the first element. The second element, and that's the most important here, is providing the same service. What service are they providing? What service are you providing? If they're the same service, you can't do that unless you go through this process to agree to it. So the question is, are you providing the same service? Well, you go to the next provision in the resolution, and it says, here's what we're planning to do. The Federal Center development, the Bend, will be limited to those services which are set forth in the service plan. Okay, and that's the way it is. The service plan is the charter, not the Constitution, because it's not voted on by the people, but a charter, which is delivered, approved by the city to create this new government. Okay, so it's what powers are limited in the service plan, what services are going to be provided. They will not duplicate or interfere with any improvements. So if you'd already put in a sewer system there, they can't go in and put in a second one. It's already been constructed. Or services. Let me read that again. The Federal Center District will not provide the same services that you are providing. So in the resolution, they're saying very clearly that there is no overlap because they're not providing the same service. What they do say in the last two lines is, however, certain purposes are similar. Well, those words aren't in the statute. It doesn't say you have to deal with an overlapping service if certain purposes are similar, even if we knew exactly what that meant. The statute is limited to the same services. So in the language of the resolution itself, they're not planning to provide the same service. And indeed, that's the whole point, right? They're here knocking on your door to have you provide all the services, sewer services. They're building they're putting the pipes in the ground, but that's not the service, right? The service is, as we'll see here. Oh, sorry. Here is what the service plan, their service plan originally says, and we have to anticipate was going to be changed because, again, the plan was not to provide the same service. The service plan says the district shall have the power and authority to finance, design, construct, acquire, install, maintain, and provide for public sanitary sewers and to transport wastewater to an appropriate wastewater treatment facility with all necessary and incidental and pertinent facilities, etc. That should sound familiar because that's exactly what you do. You take the wastewater and you transport it to an appropriate wastewater treatment facility. That's what you do. That is your service. So, two things going on here. One is they're saying in the resolution, they're not going to do that, but the service plan says they are. So, assuming the resolution is a more current statement of their intent, and that was going to be signed before they finalized the service plan, they necessarily would have to change the service plan to eliminate the provision that they're going to provide that service. Otherwise, what you're doing is you're actually creating an overlap that didn't exist before. If the service plan stays the way it is, there is in fact a conflict. There is in fact an overlap. So it's either one way or the other. Either they're not going to provide the service or they are going to provide the service. And if they're going to provide the service themselves, they don't need you. So significant issue that needs to be resolved. I assume that it was going to be resolved by amending the service plan to delete the provision that they were going to provide the service and stick with what they wrote in the resolution. But if they stick with what they wrote in the resolution, you don't need a resolution because there's no overlap. You're not providing the same service. What they are putting into this resolution and binding you upon your signature are two other things that really don't have anything to do with the overlapping issue. The first is, and this is the language from the resolution, is Green Mountain desires to evidence its consent to the organization of this new district. Now, therefore, it will be resolved that Green Mountain hereby consents to the organization and the overlap of the district. So what they're asking you to do here, and what you would be doing if you signed this and agreed to it, is you are basically telling the city of Lakewood, you think this Metro District is a great idea, and you fully support it. Note that under Title 32, because of your proximity, obviously, and your status as a Metro District, you have a right to opine, to object, or support an application for this Metro District, or you can remain silent. But what they're asking you to do here, and you need to be clear-eyed about it, what they're asking you to do here is endorse, embrace, support, recommend the creation of this Metro District. And that's a decision, a separate decision that you need to know you're making, and do it deliberately. The second thing they're doing here in the resolution is binding you to provide service. And I apologize, I'm not as up to speed on the workup you've done on this, but if you're not ready to make that decision yet as to whether or not you have the capacity or have addressed all of the issues related to the Superfund site and exposure to the workers, if you haven't resolved those yet and made a decision about whether you can provide service, then you need to know, if you sign this, you're skipping that process and you're going right to the end of the road and saying, yes, we will commit, we will provide service to the site. So two decisions that you're making if you sign this resolution that really don't have much to do with overlap, with the overlap issue. And timing. I've talked on this before. You may have heard my discussion about this before, but developers are often in a hurry to get Metro Districts approved. I can't tell you the number of times I've been in front of city councils or county commissioners, and developers say, ladies and gentlemen, you got to do it. You got to do it now because the election's coming up. We got to get this done. Otherwise, we can't, we're going to be late in creating a Metro District. Well, that's a little misleading because there are actually two elections taking place. There's an organizational election, which Title 32 talks about. And that's where, you know, anywhere from 1 to 12 people, I've seen it as little as 1, as few as 1. In Solterra, I think it was 8. You know, they sit around, I envision them sitting around in their office eating pizza, and they say, okay, we're going to vote, and we're going to have an election. And they vote, and in an organizational election, they vote, say, yes, we want to create a Metro District, and that's the vote. It's approved, and then it goes to the court for them to process. The second election, which is not required under Title 32, and the timing of that election is not in Title 32, it's set forth in the Constitution and the statutes, is a table election. And that election, yes, it's very limited in when you can have it, all kinds of hoops that need to be jumped through in order to have a table election. And it's that election that they're talking about, not the organizational election, because under the statutes, under Title 32, the judge can pick any day of the year to have an organizational election, any day of the year. Table election, very different. And table election, we don't need to get in the weeds on this, but it's basically the election where those 1 to 12 people sit around, again, in my mind, eating pizza around the office table, and they vote on usually about a dozen single space, full page ballot issues that do three things. They increase the debt limit from what was in the service plan and provide debt authority, usually about 10 times what was in the service plan. They set a maximum interest rate, typically 12 to 18%. And then they, following Tabor, they vote to essentially and effectively eliminate the right of future residents to ever vote on taxes and issuing bond debt, and reserve that right to the board, which, as you may know, is typically developer controlled. In Solterra, it was developer controlled for 11 years, largely because the developers said nobody could sit on the board during that period of time and canceled the election each year. But at any rate, so there are actually two elections. If they're genuine about creating the Metro District, it's only the organizational election they're concerned about. If it's a Tabor election that they're focused on, which obviously they are because of the timing, that's something different and really shouldn't be your concern. And I say here, if the developer is saying, as I read their comments from the prior meeting, that they can't get financing for the project because whoever is providing the financing wants to have a Tabor election first, which essentially locks the residents into a debt ceiling before they have the ability to vote, then you all have to decide, is that our priority or do we have other priorities? So in conclusion, very briefly, based upon the resolution that was presented to you and the service plan, assuming the service plan is going to be amended, there's no overlap. If the service plan is not going to be amended, the question is, well, what are you doing? Are you going to, is the district going to provide the service, or is Green Mountain going to provide the service? And why would you create an overlap just to eliminate an overlap, unless there's another agenda, which there may be because of the two other decisions incorporated into that resolution, one supporting the Metro District and two committing to provide service. I'm sorry if I went too fast, but any questions? Obviously have contact information there too.
Don, I have a question.
Yeah.
If it goes to a Tabor election, who are the voters for this? What area is covered by this? Who does the voting?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. In the Tabor election, the voters are the developer, family members, or employees. In Solterra, it was the developer and several of his employees sitting around the table. In other districts I've worked with, it's all family members. In this case, I'm assuming it would be some number anywhere between 1 and usually 12 folks, all of whom work for the developer, none of whom usually will live in the district, pay taxes there, or ever be obligated to pay on the bond debt.
Not to waste too much of your time, but it seems really inappropriate that this is actually allowed by law, that a developer can hold an election and hold future residents bound to this taxation. Has this ever been questioned, or?
We've been working for the last 4 years to enact reform legislation through the Coloradans for Metro District Reform. League of Women Voters has gotten involved this last year. We're desperately trying to change that, and that's exactly one of the most profound abuses. Unfortunately, there's a lot of money at stake. Just to put some numbers on it, we did the math and we did the research, a committee of us in Solterra. We found that after paying for the cost of the pipes in the ground, after paying for the cost of the land, just when we bought the homes, we paid the developer $75 million in profit. They wanted, on top of that, another $60 million through Metro District financing, just because they could. And when we asked them to say, well, listen, because I mean, a lot of history here, but I sat in Adam Paul's office with a room full of people, including Barb Franks, and they tried to mediate whether or not we were going to recall the developers off of our board. After they canceled our elections for 11 years, telling the residents they couldn't serve on the board. We started a recall petition. They were trying to talk us out of it. And I said to the attorney for Brookfield, you know, what's up with this? You know, why do you think you're entitled to sit in our seats and tell us how much you're going to tax us and how much of our tax money you're going to spend on what? And it's all going to you. And he said, we'll be happy to resign the seats if and only if you promise to pay us another $60 million. And I said, well, we've already issued bonds for $29 million. What did that go to? Tell us what, I mean, if we owe you money, we'll pay you. And he said, well, we don't trust you. I'm telling you. And this same refrain was repeated in front of the legislature last year, explaining why they needed to issue these bonds that would be held by the developers. They said, listen, legislators, and he was telling me, we don't trust you because once you get control of the board, you're going to find reasons not to pay us back. And of course, I responded to that and I said, we're the people that you sold houses to. We're the residents. You're telling us that we're dishonest. And at the same time, you're not telling us how much you spent of our money and what you spent it on. And we later found out that they had spent $10 million of our money in a loan to Green Tree, who was to build the intersection there outside of our district. Residents didn't have anything to say about it. They were just using us as a bank. So at any rate, I said to them, you know, what did you spend the $29 million on? I turned to Kristen Bear, Ms. McGeady knows her well. And I said, Kristen, what did you guys spend the $29 million on? And this is 11 years after much of the money was spent in a room full of people. And she said to me, John, we're still trying to figure that out. You should have seen the look on Barb Frank's face. She said, what? At any rate, so the point is, there's very little accountability and it's got to change. But because there's so much money at stake, there's more money. They have more money to spend. The residents have votes, apparently. And all the efforts that we have made to get things as simple as making sure the Metro District board members are subject to the same rules and enforcement for ethical violations. The ethical rules apply to you. They apply to the city. They apply to every government, except they don't apply to Metro Districts. I can guess as to how that happened. But at any rate, Tammy's story, wonderful advocate for Metro District reform, put her neck out to get a bill passed that would simply say the ethics rules which apply will also be enforced in Metro Districts as they are everywhere else. And she couldn't get one vote to support her in her committee because the leadership on both sides of the House, both sides of the Senate, have an agenda which is pro Metro District. And as I say, we've been working on it for 4 years, and it's been a tough slog.
So if we vote no on the overlap and it goes to a Tabor election, is there anything the city or the constituents or the people that live in the area can do anything to protect the future residents from these horrendous fees and taxes?
No, it's literally a government created by the developer for the developer. And there is zero accountability except the city creates these things, or the county creates these things. And the city of Lakewood, for example, could pass a resolution saying, here are the rules for metro districts. And rule number one is there shall be no Tabor election until the residents arrive. Period. There are lots of variations on that theme, but the point I'm making is the one thing the statute does do, it gives the cities and the counties a blank check to write into the ordinances or write into the service plan any checks and balances they want. Westminster has a great policy. Unfortunately, the city council doesn't follow it. Erie started writing one that I worked on a little bit, but the developers steered it in a different direction. So again, we're fighting a well-financed industry, and a lot of the struggle has been the education side of it. I mean, when I first started ringing the bell about these issues with the Lakewood City Council, good people like Beta and Dave, or I don't remember all the names, but at any rate, it was deer in the headlights. They said, we had no idea we had any power. We just thought they had a right to a metro district, and there wasn't anything we could do about it. So, you know, a big part of it's the education process.
Yeah, and I know the Tabor election isn't our issue here for this board, but
yeah,
certainly it would be of concern to everybody living in Lakewood.
Yes,
Tell
of course.
the city to do something, sure.
Yeah, and you all need to know that if someone comes rushing up to you and says, hey, you got to do this, you got to sign this, you got to sign this because there's an election coming up, you need, you know, it's helpful for you to know that the election they're talking about is a Tabor election. It has nothing to do with the creation, the legal steps of creating a metro district. And there's some things that aren't really healthy about that Tabor election. And you know, is that your priority, or do you have other priorities? So at any rate, you know, a lot of it is just pulling the curtain back so that folks can see what's going on and then make intelligent decisions one way or the other about all of this. So.
Well, John, you've done a lot of work for this district. We very much appreciate that.
Well, it's been you know, it's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. It's you know, when I first got that call from Adrian back in August, I think it was, of 2018, you know, I said, you know, I'll do whatever I can to help. But, you know, I tell you, when she said, well, who's this guy, Tom Morton, who signed the Big Sky IGA for Big Sky and CDN, I said, oh, okay, I know what's going on. Because Tom Morton was the fellow who was in charge of Solterra during that period of time when the elections were being canceled. And his signature is on the agreement that really is one of the backbones of this operation, where the developer enters into an agreement with himself. The residents will pay all of their fees and tax revenue to him, and he'll decide how to spend it. And I've been preaching for the better part of 7 years. Those things aren't worth the paper they're printed on. I can't enter into an agreement with myself to have my neighbor pay for the cost of my deck any more than the developer can enter into an agreement with himself, binding residents to pay him. And I'm not kidding you. In one district I'm working with, up to $500 million in interest. So
John,
it's
this
pretty.
is Mike Ock. I have a question for you. Isn't it really buyer beware? You look at the mill levy and it's all clear. I mean, if the mill levy says there's 500 million in debt, and the consumer's looking at that and saying, I'm willing to pay that mill levy, then that's on the consumer, because it's not secret. These aren't secret agreements. I mean, this money is out there. The bonds can be purchased by anybody. And at the end of the day, it's the mill levy that tells the story, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, I have to push back and say no. I'm an attorney. I've been in the land use business since I was in Connecticut back in the 70s, 80s, and in Virginia and Kansas as well. So
Are there hidden mill levies then?
hold on a minute. I consider myself a little sophisticated about these things. I came to Kansas and I said, what the hell are these Metro District things? It was near impossible for the first couple months to find any documents. And in the 8 years since that I've been working on this, and I get calls every week from people, will you evaluate this district? I get calls from real estate agents, homeowners, everybody. Anyway, it is still virtually impossible to find those agreements that I'm talking about, that the developer enters into them with himself. They call them revenue pledge agreements, reimbursement pledge agreements. It's virtually impossible to get those agreements. They're not on DOLA. They're not on the websites. In working with residents, they have to, CORA, they have to get Freedom of Information Act requests to the attorneys, to the manager, whoever they can reach to get those agreements. And even then, it's like pulling teeth sometimes. And every one I have, I'm not kidding, every agreement I have, same signature for the developer, same signature for the developer district, same signature for the resident districts. So, for example, that document, which is one of the critical documents, is not public. And to your question about the mill rates, right?
Yes, please, thank you. You're telling me property taxes are not known?
Pardon me?
Are you telling me that property taxes are not known? Because you and I both know mill levy is part of the property tax.
Yeah.
Property taxes are known when you buy a house, when you buy any property.
Yeah. So,
Sure.
So the mill rate is there, right? What they don't tell you, and it's not in any of the documents, is that mill rate's going to increase. Number one, in our community, we had a debt authorization of 4.9 billion. I'm saying that $1 billion. It's in the disclosures to the bond investors. The bond investors get served this silver platter of information, which is a wonderful resource, but virtually none of that information is shared with residents at any time. But at any rate, so we had a debt ceiling. They could issue debt up to $4.9 billion. They could issue debt without ever asking for the residents' permission up to $91 million. Just the board, governed by the developers. And in many service plans, there's no limit on the mill rate. And then what they're doing is, in the service plans, they're writing the service plans to legalese out, right in the language that basically says the definition of debt does not include loans or advances from the developer. So they're playing with the definitions, and if there is a mill rate cap, it doesn't apply there. And then what's happening more and more is the fees, right? Many of the districts I work with are upside down. There isn't enough money, tax revenue, being generated by the mill rates. So the developer is imposing fees, which are roughly the equivalent in a couple of districts I've been working with to another 35 mills. In Candela, which is, just up the road, Rocky Flats, we all know where that is. I'm probably mispronouncing it. Their mill rate is, I think it's like 120 mills. When I move in the house, here's my tax statement. 2 years later, after they've issued another $20 million in bond debt, my mill rate is going up. And if the mill rate is capped, they start hitting folks with fees and serious fees. And in those service plans, there's no limit on the fees. In the detail I did on the federal center service plan, I'd have to look at it again, but my recollection is there was no limit on the operations and maintenance mill rate, and there was no limit on the amount of fees that the district could charge the residents. And they wrote in that convoluted 50% definition for mill rate limit on debt, but that basically says, well, once the debt reaches once the value of the properties reached a certain point, there's unlimited mill rates. There is no limit. And that's a pretty common provision now too, where the assessed value reaches a certain point, they can, the sky's the limit on the mills. So yeah, we do get that number, but it changes. And, the disclosure we've been pushing for through the legislature, half page, three-quarter page. Tell us, just like you do the bond investors, tell us what is the maximum amount of money that we are obligated to pay for this reimbursement of pipe cost for the pipes in the ground that we've already paid. What's the limit on that? In our case, up to $4.9 billion. Well, if you can tell that to the investors, you sure as hell should be able to tell that to the people buying the house. And when I first said to a state legislator, they need to tell people that 6 people or 8 people sitting around the table eating pizza voted to impose a debt limit of $4.9 billion on me and my neighbors. She said, well, you can't do that. They wouldn't buy the house. I said, or they wouldn't do that. Another number, how much debt has been issued? Nobody told me when I moved into Solterra that they'd already issued $29 million in bond debt that I was liable for. My bank didn't know that. Do you think they might have wanted to know that? That was not disclosed. Neither did they disclose that the developer is planning in the next 5 years to issue another $30 million in debt. Didn't tell us that. And they, those are things that we've been asking to put on a disclosure form. And I agree. If you tell me, as a new resident in Colorado, I've got $4.9 billion hanging over my head in debt authority. I have outstanding debt of $29 million that I'm responsible for. They're going to issue another $30 million of debt in the next 5 years. And your mill rate is this, and it may or may not go up, and they can also charge you fees. Okay, I'm now informed. Oh, and by the way, share with me the documents, please, the agreement, the service plan, and it'd be real nice to get a copy of that bond prospectus that you send to the bond investors that can contain all this good information. And then, yes, then I can make a rational decision. And so when people call me, real estate agents call me to evaluate a district, or homeowners, parents of homeowners, it takes me now 2 hours, what took me 3 months, it takes me about 2 hours, and I lay it out for them, and now they can make an informed decision. And you're right. And if they decide to buy the house, that's great. And I'll tell you, I mean, my wife loved our home in Solterra. She loved it. And with everything that I had, all the information I had, she said, yeah, I probably still would have bought it. But at least she knew what she was getting into. And that's the problem. They need to stop hiding the ball, and they need to restore the residents' accountability for how the money is being spent. We don't have any accountability. I'm sorry to get on. Sorry.
Yeah, we're straying a little bit. And we've heard
Yeah.
a lot from you. Thank you very much. I think you met your goal of informing people here tonight. But I want to make sure that we have questions answered, and we did hear quite a lot from you. I don't think we gave equal this much time before. So if there's anything that you would like to say in response from Lincoln Properties, please let me know. If you would like to speak up, please do.
This is Marion Mead again. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I think what we'll do is wait until we have our revised service plan
Mhm.
and then bring it forward and give you a presentation at that time, because I think having abstract conversation isn't helpful. I would say that John and I have discussed these topics many times. Sometimes people apply an expression, it sounds too good to be true. My comment on what John has to say is, it's too bad not to be true. I disagree with a lot of his assumptions, and so I disagree with his conclusions, and if you want a broader presentation on that different perspective, I can provide that. But I don't know that's what you're interested in tonight. But I'd say specific to the application, we can go ahead and bring our presentation when we bring that overlap request over. Is that okay for everybody?
Fantastic, great, thank you. Did anybody have any more questions? Good, good. All right, well, thank you all for your time and attention on that. Thank you, John, for preparing and answering everything very thoroughly. There was a lot of new information for people.
Great to see you all. Take care.
Thanks. So I don't think there's anything more to do on that. So we can move on to the discussion that was brought up last time for a special session on the environmental concerns, which was a whole separate topic surrounding this development.
My suggestion would be this whole concept of what we're gonna be doing with the Fed Center, is something that takes an in-depth research. It's probably the biggest decision this board will ever make in its career, and it'll affect the district for decades to come. So it's something that shouldn't be done in a couple of months. I think we ought to plan on a very serious research situation, and then, you know, take 6 months to come up with a plan. Now, I don't think we want to do it right now because we've got budget time coming up. And in the fall, we need to get our act together for getting our budget together for next year. But beginning next year, I think we could lay out a 6-month process where we take some hearings, do some studies, and come up with a clear plan. Where is our vision of the future gonna be? As opposed to perhaps being hasty. I'd rather take the time and be real thorough than go back later and go, oops, I missed that.
Yeah.
Okay, I hear a concern. I'm gonna push back 100% on, I just want to delay for delay's sake. I have not heard you say, which is what I asked you specifically to come with this meeting. What do you want to do and what do you hope to accomplish? And it was not just to delay for delay's sake. We have studies going on. We are set to hear final conclusions. What additional studies do you want, and how can we figure out how to progress, given the fact that this study started 6 months ago? So if you were paying attention 6 months ago, and at that time, this was not on your agenda. So I don't want to delay until such time as Dave feels like thinking about it. This needs to keep going. We have an obligation to figure out what we're going to do, and we can't just say, we're busy.
Well, I don't think it's a matter of whether Dave's on top of it or not. We've got a whole new board, et cetera, et cetera.
I understand.
And we have a public, et cetera, and it just ought to be done right. And if even it turns out that Dave's an impediment because he can't do his homework, whatever, you know, we need.
Tell me what's being done wrong. That's what I want to hear. What are we doing wrong?
Well,
So that we can fix it.
when we did study sessions, I would like to.
We're not city council. This is a study session. This is what we do. We talk here. So what are we doing wrong?
Well,
What can we do?
we should have the staff come in and say, okay, here's our projections right now for what this pipeline's gonna carry, what this pipeline's gonna carry.
They are looking at that.
Well, they are. I'm not, this board.
You have been invited to look at that.
Okay, well, it's the same thing. It's like, well, you're telling somebody, buyer beware. Well, if you just covered your, if you took care of yourself, you wouldn't have any complaints. We need to bend over back. We can't take this attitude as like, well, you should have taken care of it. We need to be bending over backwards. And if it takes extra meetings or whatever, do it. I don't want to sit there and say, you had your chance, you blew it. Therefore, now we're going down a path.
We are going down this path. You have had opportunities for 6 months. If you would like another opportunity to discuss, let me tell you again, the update, because I want to hear what we need to stop work on in order to accommodate your 6-month delay, because we are progressing. If we have new board members, and all respect to the new board members, we can't just delay for 6 months until you get on board. This is your job. They will come up to speed. They're both intelligent people. What we need to do is, you say pipe capacity. We are studying it. That is being studied. We're modeling. Sam is available to answer questions. We are looking at that, but that will depend on capacities and where we're going. Josh is looking at, we're doing lift stations, we're doing gravity flows, we're doing pipe capacities, we're doing pump stations. We have been looking at all of that for 6 months. If you have specific questions or if you need more, then you've had 3 opportunities already this meeting to ask more questions about the generation, about the plans, about the pipe capacities. All of those are available to you. So I need to know what else you want us to sit here as a board, because I don't need to do that, because I have been asking every month and I am involved. And you've had those opportunities too. What else do we need to do?
All those things you've been doing for 6 months.
Then you need to come in and do them.
Well, no,
What?
the answer is not to just get me on
Yes,
board.
it is.
All the board members need this. And I think it would be good to have the public on.
I think,
as
yeah,
well.
there's a key point there. I think this is a biggie, and I agree with him. This is huge in my mind.
It
And,
is,
and understanding what this gentleman talked about with these metro districts, and this metro district being right in the middle of Lakewood, here off of the Federal Center and area. And my general position is, I don't want to go with development for development's sake. I just, I'll try to come up to speed on this thing. But a metro district that has that kind of power, and going off of what I know from Soterra, which I live literally maybe 200 feet from Soterra's borders, fought against the development of Soterra. And I know it quite well. It wasn't supposed to be there. I just need to be able to feel a little warm and fuzzy about this whole thing. And obviously, we're definitely not the city, but we need to exercise control, take, at least from my point of view, take the time to make sure that we're not biting a bite of an apple that's going to poison us down the road. And I just like to have a little extra time to come up to speed with it. It's got a lot of moving parts, and finding out the information that I was not aware of just tonight from the gentleman. I'll go back and read his presentation and go over it and do some research on metro districts in that law. Damn.
Well, to me, it's deja vu. Remember 10 years ago, when I was on council, this service plan came before us. And it was like, okay, it's been on the agenda for 2 weeks. If you have any questions, let us know. I don't know enough to ask any questions.
it's not a valid argument for what we're talking about right now, which is a discussion on the Fed Center environmental results. One, the Metro District did come fast. That's not what we're talking about now. That's a whole separate decision, and now you have 6 months delay. What we're talking about is what started a year ago when we had the purchase property, when we had a different district manager. We have been through this for a long time. We have all of these processes in place.
Given that, that's fine and dandy, but things change, and this is a moving situation. You got 2 new board members that change, so there are certain things that have to be taken into consideration with the 2 new board members. The Metro District, that district's just gonna have to say, wait, okay, we're gonna have to hold back a little bit while these other 2 people come up to speed. The young man over there may be faster than me.
I'm not young.
You,
You're younger than me, I guarantee you that.
I understand, but this
So,
is,
given that, and I agree with him on this, I don't want, I'm not gonna make a place to vote on this, going either way on it, until, a lot more of my mind feels wrapped around this.
We are not discussing any vote right now.
I understand that,
So
but you wanna move, you're moving forward on a lot of, you're doing studies and
what
this
would
stuff.
you like to stop?
I don't wanna stop anything,
Okay.
I just wanna say, okay, your timeline is like this. You got 2 new members, you gotta take a little bit step back and say, okay, now we gotta catch up so we can continue to proceed forward. Don't stop it.
Well, we're not, this is my point. We can't stop for months to let you come up.
No, I'm
What we
not
can
stopping anything, I'm
do,
just saying. Take it slow, a little slower, let us come up to speed on this.
and you guys need to come into the office every now and again
And
and
that's the
ask the
first I've heard of
questions.
that. I will. I will. I mean, I thought maybe I'd like to come down and spend some
Well, the
time.
other thing, even if I come up totally up to speed after 10 years, listening to all this, do I feel like I'm finally getting a grip on it? Well, it's just because I'm stupid. But all right, everybody else on board is pretty smart. But what about all the citizens? They would like to know what's going on as well. The whole bit about Dave, do your homework and become smart, that solves the problem? I don't think so.
We are not.
Okay.
We gotta do the best we can do. And we're doing that on multiple levels of all of these big discussions. But if you're talking about every little pipe capacity, which is where you're going with some of this, we can't do that. This is our job. So we have to look at letting the staff pursue. Here's where we're at on track. Think about this, right? We don't have the final plans from the developer yet. They are working on it. So I hesitate to say, stop working because we haven't thought about it. We're not ready to discuss it for 6 months. They're not ready to discuss it yet either. We are working towards final plans. We probably won't have them tomorrow. So you have time. When you get them, or when you have questions, when you think about it, it's your job to start asking questions so that you can be up to speed, because there's a lot of moving parts. I understand. That is going on. They're working on the final plans. They're working on agreements, figuring out all the legal structures of the old agreements with the Fed Center and GSA. That's still all going on. That's still been going on for months. We are working on the environmental stuff. That's been going on for months. It's still going on for months. You have a final draft. You were supposed to come to this meeting after reading the last rough draft with questions and a plan for what you needed to see so that we could move forward with that environmental review. Does anybody have any suggestions for that environmental review after seeing the rough draft and having a chance to read it more thoroughly? Anything to add? Randy, I know, came to a meeting, so he added a lot of thoughts. Do we have anything?
I got several more thoughts. I mean, I think we're way above the cart before the horse. I mean, we're
For
talking
what?
about an environmental state. We don't even know if you can put a pipe in that ground over there. We don't even know that yet.
You can dig into the ground.
We don't even know. I mean, it's been hazardous control for years. So how are they, and okay, they put 2 foot of dirt over that to, take care of the environmental hazard part of it. You're talking now 20 feet digging in the ground. So
Yes, they have
you're
plans
telling
for
me that this whole study has not been restudied? I mean, it has not changed in as long as I know, and I've lived across the street for 40 years. It has not changed for 40 years.
What is your suggested course of action on this?
My suggestion, either they hire somebody or we hire somebody, or we take into the thousands of pages of documentation.
Randy, that's the meeting you sat in on.
I know.
We did hire.
I explained to it at that time. Same thing.
Okay, so we are, this is my point. We are doing everything that y'all are suggesting. We are doing. It has been in the works
Okay.
for a year.
And Dave just mentioned one thing that I would 100% have, in citizens input on this. We have not had any citizens input.
Yeah, that's,
So
a key point would be.
You're talking
send out an
about a
email
lot of,
This week on,
I mean-
on an email to everybody, going out to all the citizens. After we get to a point where we understand certain things, i.e.
you take it from instance, I mean, if they're willing to put.
Asking for input.
this is where we're at. This is what I said last time.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm obviously, what am I missing? I'm not communicating well here. Where we're at is we are finalizing this plan and y'all wanted some other, which was the original plan from a year ago.
Yeah.
Get in and, it's an independent study. We still need to do recommendations. My recommendation would be to not hold the hearing that you're asking for now until we get the final plan done and possibly work through some of the additional recommendations that are done.
Yeah, but you can't make a plan on something that you don't know about.
I'm sorry, what
You
kind of
can't-
plan?
You're talking about a plan that
I'm-
you've been working on for the last 6 months. You
The-
don't have the knowledge
Then
of what's happened over the
misspoke.
last 40 years.
Then we're talking about two different things then.
Okay,
The plan for our board,
right.
when we hired this independent investigator, was to go through all of those documents that you have, and you saw they have gone through that. They have looked through it, they have reviewing it, they are doing, and then part of the process was because that we knew there was going to be this extreme level of distrust and skepticism,
Tons of it.
even for people who have the documents in their hands. We were going to hold a public meeting
Mhm.
so that we can ask questions.
Did
And
we?
everybody can, no, we're not there yet.
Oh,
So you guys are asking for a public hearing.
No.
I am not ready for, I don't think the environmental people are ready for. And you're pushing a delay plan on something that is, we aren't at the point of talking. When we do get to that point of talking, you need to come with a plan for what you want to see out of that hearing. What questions do you want? Don't just say you're delaying it just because you're delaying it, because you haven't read the plans, because you just don't feel like it today. Get some questions lined up and make sure that we have covered the bases. Did we look at an X study for, like you said before,
Yeah.
here's the study that we know that there are dangers in this ground and here's the potholes. Did we check that? Yes, we did. We can answer
Who
that
did?
question. They're checking that,
Yeah.
right? That was what you
they're
had.
checking.
The developers.
Yeah.
We are checking that.
Okay.
We are checking that. You put that on our list with our tri-hydro people. We are checking that. That is the whole point, so that you have somebody that you can ask questions of and you are representing your constituents. So if you have questions, write them down, get the answers, and then come to the public hearing being ready to do that.
Yeah, I agree, that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
I'm ready.
We're not there yet, we're not at that point yet,
but the final,
but in creating a plan to get to that point, we need to start with a plan, hundreds of plans, hundreds and hundreds of plans.
okay,
To start,
It's hard for me to start at the final when you're not even at the beginning.
yeah,
well,
so,
And I admit, I haven't been on the board that
I
long, so.
understand, but you
yeah.
understand, this is where we were always going, is this public hearing. We need to get something to report on and be able to answer questions.
okay,
Lincoln Properties will be able to come
Oh,
and answer questions, and they will have their experts, and you will be able to question and compare.
Where's our experts on?
We hired
the environment.
Tri-Hydro that, and Miller is handling the engineering contracts, Josh is online, Tri-Hydro is writing the report.
So that was way before you and I. I have never seen a report
You
since I've
saw
been here.
their preliminary draft and you commented on it, that's what we talked about at the last meeting,
I commented on their draft,
that's
but I'm
Tri-Hydro.
not talking, their
That's
draft before they're putting in.
Tri-Hydro is us.
I'm not complimenting on that. I'm complimenting on how they're getting 20 feet in the ground that they're gonna dig through that whole section. Who's looked at that?
We are looking at that. They are looking at that.
I'd like to
Yeah.
see that. I think
Yeah,
you
I
would
don't
too.
think they talked about going, I know we just, we had we
Yeah.
talked about how far they went down and they were going down a couple of feet, if I remember correctly, but they didn't got 20 feet, but he's right.
They are-
The issue was how far did they go down? I mean, are they going down and how far do they need to go down?
And how much area are they gonna do?
Yeah.
Are they gonna dig up the whole federal center there, the whole 59 acres?
We're gonna trench along and lay the pipes, so most of your answers are in that preliminary report.
Okay.
If you still have these questions after you read that, and we have the final draft will be coming out, please call Josh.
I would like to see that before I go any farther.
He will have that. You are always welcome to do that. He has the answers, Tri-Hydro has the answers, we have Miller Associates overseeing the contract. We are on this a lot. What we want to get to is where you can answer these questions and understand that we have hired somebody to answer them. I want you to be able to come into the meeting not with questions, but with your answers so that the constituents can get their answers in a timely fashion, because they will have all the same things. So make sure you know beforehand. And your answers are, if you have questions that are not in the final report, they are drafting, this is where we were last meeting. Get your questions into that final report so that we can release it to the public, okay? Then they can get their answers by reading it. Not that we will have a lot of that, but it will be available, and that'll cut down on a little bit, okay?
I would like to see the final report,
Okay, it's.
you know. I
within
need
a
to
week or
read that
two.
and I need to understand it, and I need to see who's providing that final report.
Tri-Hydro is,
And to me, who's try hard, I'm, like I said, I'm new, I don't
I
know this.
understand. Tri-Hydro is the people we hired, so,
Okay.
so that was
And
the
with
meeting.
the-
Josh will have that information.
Josh has that information.
So Josh will be the person to contact.
And
Okay, I'll call him tomorrow and I'll get that information.
he doesn't have the final report, you
Okay.
have the preliminary report.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Josh
this
will be the
is-
person to appoint to- if we have any
If
questions
you have any questions.
about the preliminary report.
And again, while they're finalizing, this was the point where if you had questions, they need to put it in there, so please make sure to read it and get those in there.
Going forward. We got the preliminary report,
Yes,
questions on the preliminary report. Josh is an intermediary on the preliminary report. We're not looking for the final report for us to review. Right?
look to the preliminary report.
Yeah.
And get your questions into the final,
Right, and then we look to the final
final to review,
review, for a final review on our point.
yes.
Any questions we should have. Right?
Yeah, get them all in so that
Into
we get that
in
final.
for the final report.
Hopefully, we can get a final report to approve at the next meeting,
Okay, all right, for the next meeting. So we get the final report
yes,
approved at the next meeting, right?
yes,
From our perspective.
yes.
What do we do about getting this information out to public?
At that point, you have two choices, I think. Based on the preliminary report, they have additional recommendations to follow. You can hold a public hearing now. You can wait until the additional recommendations are followed if we choose to do that. Some of them are additional studies. So if you would like to wait and do that then, when you have all the information, we can do it then, we can do it both. But you need to decide whether or not you want to hold it now or wait until you do those additional things, if you decide on those.
You say now, but you mean at
After-
next
after
meeting.
the final-
After the final thing
After
is
the final
approved,
report, which we will
Right.
vote to approve.
right,
Okay. Given that, if it's approved,
Thank you.
we would then move on getting a public hearing scheduled of some kind.
Have you looked at the
No, I haven't
recommendations?
looked at the recommendations yet,
Okay,
so I will,
okay,
but after the final report is approved by us, if it is approved by us, if it's not approved, then it's back to square one, we have to then address any issues that we have at that point in time, until we get to a point where it's finally approved, correct?
right, yes,
Okay, once the report is approved, then we then proceed with a public hearing.
if you would like to, or you can wait until the additional studies are done, should you approve those.
So then it would be up to discussion to
Yes.
see how everybody wants to move forward
Yes.
from that point, going on with the additional studies. Alright. Just from a planning schedule, just how
Yes.
we gonna flow down this road.
So looking at that, if you approve it in September, approve the final report in September,
Okay. Now you
and
got,
now you schedule something else, you're in October. We can do a public hearing on just an informational thing, knowing that we may still have other information coming. We will be getting into the budget discussion, so we'll probably have another special meeting in October. So that will be 2 meetings in October to approve the budget. So yes, we have to work around those things, but just be mindful of why you're doing things, right?
Yeah, oh, so now, okay, from a planning perspective on the board,
Right.
there is that, you know, we got the budget coming, so you got the plan for the budget and all
Yeah.
this other things.
We could hold another special meeting in November.
Right.
We wouldn't have additional studies done. Look and see when you want to have that additional or a public hearing. Do you want to do it, you know, now or later?
Okay.
It may take more than one. It may, you could hold, you have choices, so think about it. So that's the plan. How are you gonna do it? What do you want to accomplish?
Well, we want to accomplish all business, but we always also want to do it judiciously and not cause any headaches for our clients. down the road.
Right.
And cost is always an issue, and not only saving money. So we're spending money now for these companies to come in and do these studies.
So technically, no.
Let me just-
Lincoln Properties is
They're paying for.
for the
our study.
required studies. Now, the public hearing, that is something that will be our responsibility and we'll have our engineers all
Are they
gonna pay
paying
for.
for that study from that one company?
Tri-Hydro,
They pay for tri-hydro?
yes.
Are they obligated to us or are they obligated to Lincoln Properties?
It's us. We hired them.
And they pay,
We are, and they're paying, it is required by our rules and regs to do any studies that we require,
and.
yes.
Developers.
Now Lincoln Properties has their own environmental study and they have by Vertex. And they have that, which is part of our
This is
review
what we did
document.
last month.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So they have one and we have one, and that is just part of this skepticism and public trust issue.
Well, then, we got two, we're gonna have to take a look at two studies,
Yes,
theirs and ours,
right,
and see how we compare, I think.
that's right, and that is part of Tri-Hydro's job.
Oh, tri-hydro's gonna do that.
Yes, that is part of they did a review.
Okay.
But and Vertex is, as you saw, available to answer questions as well.
Okay.
So all of that
Then maybe
information,
once we're clear on that point, they were gonna actually do the comparison between the Lincoln developers study and their own study
yeah,
and give us as a part of the final.
they look to see, yes.
Karen,
Yes.
I have to say one thing, I've been a little under the weather here lately, and I haven't had a chance to do some things. But I did some research here, before I had a heart attack. And before I had the heart attack, before I went into the hospital, I did some researches. And the company that actually owns the Federal Center has got literally thousands of businesses they have bought and sold over the years. They've gone bankrupt. And it's a record at the state of Colorado, at the Secretary of State. So as far as I'm concerned, everything at that level, at that point, I mean, who are we dealing with? I mean, this company is a Canadian-owned based company that's registered in the state of Colorado. Like I said, they have pages of 273 pages of businesses that they have owned. And they have banks to what have you, that they've gone out of business. So what's telling me is why are they they're gonna build a federal center. And according to their record, I would think 5 years they'll be bankrupt, gone and down the road. And who's gonna be paying for this for the rest of our lives? Green Mountain Water? You know, it's just, it doesn't make sense to me at all. So that's the only thing I'm very, very concerned about. We're hearing about you're saying that, hydro and this and that. But I mean, we really found out who we're dealing with here? We don't know.
I don't know that we have a legal basis to say we don't like your past bankruptcies, so we're not going to continue doing this.
I'm not saying that we're gonna do that. I'm
But-
just saying, now, if they wanna come and say, okay, we'll put a $500 million bond on this property for 30 years.
Mhm.
And if anything goes wrong, or people are dying from this or that, or, what have you.
Were you the one who brought up the bond before? That was
Yeah.
Dave. wasn't it?
No, I
That was
think I
you?
brought it up.
No, I mean, not you, the Miller Association.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if they would put up a bond and say, okay, here's $500 million, if anybody gets sick or gets sued or this and that, you guys are bankrupt or whatever, you're gone. Your history.
Why don't you research that possibility?
Okay.
What I know
That's
I'm
fair.
getting frustrated and I apologize.
I mean, we all are.
I hear your concern. I hope that you hear that we are addressing those concerns. This is, my frustration is, I hope you hear that we're addressing those concerns and that nothing is hasty. These have been month-long studies. They will continue to be month-long studies. You have months to ask your questions. What I don't want to do is wait to ask questions until months later, and then we start the process, and then we're right back here.
No, I
I
agree
just
with
want
that.
to continue going.
I agree with that. I just, you keep talking about these different things, but there's a company that actually did the study for the GSA. They're still in business. I talked to them on the phone the other day. They're over on Coldwell. They did the original assessment of that property. And they've got a laundry list. I think, I don't know, I don't have it with me, but a laundry
You
list
brought
of,
it up, yeah,
of all the problems that's on that property.
yeah.
So I'm just trying, I come from a different direction. I'm trying to protect the people of Lakewood.
I think we're all
You
trying
know,
to do that.
I don't care about builders. I mean, they're all over the place and we do whatever thing.
They're here and they're gone.
But we need to protect the citizens of Lakewood.
Right.
I'm not gonna be here for 20 more years.
Right.
So who's gonna take care of these people when we're gone?
Right, well, that's our
That's
job
all
to
I'm
do
after
that.
right now.
You're right, that's our job.
Okay.
Take care of the district.
Yeah.
But I'm not hearing any different plans of action, anything that we need to, any causes of concern, except that we need to do our jobs, which I think we're doing. If you have anything else that we need to do, bring it up, research it, ask Josh, get your questions answered, take a look at that report.
I think the first thing we need to do is hold public comment. We need to get the public involved. What are they interested in? What are they going to be? What's in their pocket? I mean, not pockets money wise, but what's in their livelihood for the next 20 years of their lives?
More than that.
Well, they're certainly emailing me, so.
Oh, I know it. And like I said, I haven't put anything out yet because I'm kind of new to this and I'm not trying to
Yeah.
get on anybody's toes, but I think that something needs to get out through the city of Lakewood or through somewhere to the public. I remember the hundreds of meetings we had on Union Boulevard.
Yeah.
So
Well-
that's all I'm looking at.
Well, I think we
Okay,
gotta
well,
go get to the meetings. You just need to get the information put
You
together.
gotta get the
So we
information.
can put it out, so we can say, this is where we are, and this is what we know. And then
That's
please
right.
come and comment on what we know so
That's right.
far.
That's
I
right,
don't think
don't-
we
so
know
we're not
what to
answering
ask.
questions, getting questions we can't answer.
that's right.
I don't think we know what to ask.
Yeah, we don't
What
know.
am I-
Yeah, we don't know any answers at this point.
I-
I don't know any answers.
I think that this is probably, sufficiently addressed. I think we can take it up when we have the final report in September and have further discussion then. But I think, it's probably in everyone's interest to move on to the next agenda item.
I think so. We're there.
Very good.
I think the developer representative has her hand up if it's appropriate. I'm not sure what comment she wants to make, but it might inform the conversation we're having. I'm not sure.
Can I touch base with you later about how we're gonna structure this? Ally, thank you, I'm sorry, I will get back to you and we'll incorporate your concerns. I think I did get your, email, who was that from? Let me touch base with you later. The way I'm going, I'll bite somebody's head off, sorry.
We all know.
All
How do
right,
you feel
thank you.
about a 5-minute break before we move on?
I agree.
Well,
Yeah, can we do a brief legal update before and have a break before executive session? If
Okay,
there are general matters while the public was listening, so that we don't have to send them off again.
yeah,
Okay.
I can do general legal matters very briefly. I talked last month about the issue with backflow testing for cross-connection devices. That issue has been largely resolved by essentially an agreement not to enforce the fine regulation pending a resolution to the legislation. And I'm happy to talk to you more about that if you'd like, separately outside of the meeting. As another general matter, the SDA conference is going to be in Keystone next month. Those dates are September 10th, 11th, and 12th. The district is a member of the Special District Association, and that 3-day conference is held both in person and remotely. If you want to attend, I think it's a valuable resource for directors and staff and attorneys. It's a good networking opportunity, especially for staff and directors to meet.
Do we normally have somebody in attendance?
I don't know if prior district managers have attended remotely, but I don't know that any directors have gone in person while I've been representing the district, and I don't think anybody's attended remotely either. I go every year.
Is there a fee for that?
There is, and it's something that you can be reimbursed through the
There's
district.
district. Okay, and how do we get more information about that?
You can call me. or
Okay,
you
I'll
can-
call you,
You can go.
because I'd probably like to attend at least one meeting. Good.
Okay, yep, you have my email, my phone?
I do.
Please give me a call. You can find information online at sda.org also. I'll be there all 3 days, come and see me.
And you recommend going?
Yeah, it's 2.5 days of information sessions, on a wide variety of topics, and I'm highly confident that there will be something there to interest you.
And there's an agenda on the
Yes, I got a copy of the agenda today. I don't know if it's been published yet.
is there any particular sessions that you would recommend over?
I haven't looked at it yet. But there's water, wastewater, district management, wide range of issues.
And it is coming up soon, so we gotta get on top of it.
Yep.
Is it sold out ever?
I don't know if it is ever sold out.
Where is it this year?
It's in Keystone. And online. If you can, I recommend going in person,
Yeah,
just because
just
there's
one day at least,
occasionally
yeah.
tech issues with
One day,
It's 2.5 days.
2.5 days.
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. It ends midday on Thursday. A note, however, that Tuesday is your regular board meeting. So,
I know.
so I will be attending the September board meeting remotely.
That's a big meeting.
Yes.
He'll be glad to be remote.
Just to chime in here, if it makes it easy, I can send the information out to the directors tomorrow morning.
I appreciate
That'd be
it.
great.
Thank you, Josh.
Thanks, Josh. There are no general litigation updates. I send the pleadings to you roughly weekly. If you ever have any questions about those, please call me or email me. I'm happy to talk about those. But that concludes the general legal
Yeah,
presentation.
one quick question. You know, they came in at 3:30 this afternoon, so I just took a quick glance.
Yes.
I was looking at a couple, like the exhibits and stuff like that, and it struck me as familiar, like, haven't I seen these before? Are they repeats or are they something different? I know I need to go back, take time to read the whole thing.
They were newly filed, but they are duplicates of things that have been filed
Okay.
previously, yes.
Okay, cause I was reading emails, like, I read this email before last. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
there was a
I
great.
thought maybe I was losing my mind, which I.
Well, not on that issue. And I,
Other issue?
I think we're ready for 10A
Excellent. Let's have
or a break.
can we call and then call a
You wanna go into executive session and then
Yes,
take a
please.
break? Gotcha.
I'd like to move to go into executive session to receive legal advice for the Big Sky mediation and settlement negotiations.
Second motion.
Second by Director Martinez, all in favor? Unanimous approval.
All right, as the
Thank-
district's attorney, it is my opinion that the discussion of the matter announced in the motion to go into executive session constitutes a privileged attorney-client communication. I am therefore requesting that no further record be kept until the executive session has been concluded. The time is 8:34 and I am requesting that the recording be turned off. The executive session, the time is now 9:50 and I have resumed the recording because the attorney-client communication is finished. The executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were the board of directors, district manager, litigation counsel, Mike Ogborn and Paul Quintana, and general counsel, myself. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matter is not included in the motion to go into the executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I would ask that you state your concerns for the record.
Okay, thank you very much. Next on the agenda is an executive session if needed for the Ravine Bridge Agreement, just to make a note that that was not needed, so we will skip that item. So we are under item 11, any actions resulting from the executive session, where we did discuss our options with regards to mediation and settlements. So this would be the time to have a motion if anybody would like to proceed with accepting a proposal or making a settlement offer.
Well, I gotta say, I'll let people take the lead. All right, if I have to do it. You know, my motion is not to do the settlement. How do I word that?
I don't think we need a motion for a non-action, do we?
I would rather have a motion.
Okay.
You are moving to reject the proposal.
Okay.
A second.
And proceed to trial.
Yes. Well spoken. Flowed from my lips.
Director Wickman motions to reject the offer and proceed to trial.
Yes.
And
second it.
Director Little seconds. Any discussion?
Yes, I have a concern that we spend an extraordinary amount of money on this issue to date. And that if we go to trial, by my estimation, if we lose, we could be liable for tens of millions of dollars, possibly. And the expense of all of this troubles me more than anything. So just wanted to make that clear. It's my point of view. If we lose a trial, it could cost us and our constituents, the ratepayers, a lot of money.
These are hard decisions and big risks, and it's hard to balance what is always right. I understand it.
Yes, this is difficult.
Anything else?
I think my feelings were, I brought the backside of it up, so. Your motion. And I think my feelings are on the table.
Okay, well, if there's nothing else for public, then all in favor of rejecting the proposal? Is that a yes?
That's
Unanimous?
Yeah.
Unanimous vote to reject the proposal? Is that what okay, very good. Okay, and move to trial.
It would be appropriate to inform Judge Becker.
Yeah, I'll give her a call. We will take our lead.
Well, so saying. We didn't progress this far, but should we schedule, or do we need another executive session for something for trial preparation? Not tonight, but we should look at scheduling something. Do we need? At least get, what can we help?
There are some costs that are we'd like to spend some money on pretty quickly.
Mhm.
That I'd like to have at least some tacit approval for. So right now.
We should have a meeting, yes.
Yes.
What kind of costs?
Well, we don't want to talk about it right now.
Oh.
Okay, so let's, I have found in the last.
We're in public right now. Oh.
The last time I looked at, asked about a special time was before you are. Are you available Tuesday night? It seemed like Tuesday night was pretty much the only night that everybody was available.
I'm available most nights at this time.
Yeah,
Me too.
pretty much, other
It's,
than
okay, so
Fridays, maybe.
no Fridays.
This time being 10 o'clock or this time? being
Oh, 6 o'clock.
Okay,
Preferably 6.
Six works.
A little later helps me, but I could be here at 6. If it's just a quick decision, maybe a 6:30.
okay, how's your schedule for
I have a day job till 6.
till
What do you do?
6:30? That's not a lot of delay.
Say
How are you?
Oh,
Your schedule on Tuesdays.
he's a pole.
You have
dancer.
another.
He didn't.
I assume you would like to come.
Constituents being against it.
Next Tuesday, 20th will be fine. I would make
I've been agonizing over this for 20 years.
27th would work. Don't get me wrong, I hate Solterra. Over there, other bad.
How quick are you looking at, the 20th or the 27th?
20th would be better.
20th. Okay, can we look at a special meeting for the 20th then at 6:30?
What day of the week? is that? Yeah, that's fine.
20th of what, September,
August, next week.
August? Oh, hold on, no, I'm out of town the end of August. Hold on.
The 20th,
Yes,
Maybe.
1 week,
It's in a week from today.
next week.
next week.
Where you going?
Go visit my grandchild.
No.
We can get you on Zoom.
Yeah, I leave on the 22nd.
Okay,
So the 20th, I guess I'm here.
great. All right. So we will get you then.
Special meeting called to the foreign, this for executive session for litigation,
Okay.
status report and plan. Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
presentation, thank you.
Yeah. it
Yes.
was.
Thank you for speaking with us on that.
You want me to sign it here again?
I'll get it this week, yeah. Was that, have a good night, thank you.
They might.
I didn't even see like.
Okay, so that leaves us with new business. Anybody have anything? I should let you know, I'm working on getting a meeting together with, I guess I could have brought this up at lobbying, but with some of the special districts that helped in our last lobbying effort to look at legislative issues. So I'm trying to schedule a meeting for that. Anybody have any interest in joining me on that? Yeah,
It'd be interesting.
okay.
Is it gonna be?
It would be,
Here or something?
it'll be on Zoom because they're scattered throughout the state.
Okay.
We can do it as a public meeting. If everybody wants to be involved, we can cut it down to 2, then we can not call a special meeting for it.
Yeah, I'd
If you want
recommend
to,
cutting
it's
it
fine.
down to 2, but
Yeah,
You're not obligated to attend.
you don't have to call I mean, we can
Oh, I
call a special
understand.
meeting, but then it would be open to the public. So, are you
If
okay with
want-
that coming?
Yeah, if you wanna do just you two, that's fine.
That would be great.
Let me ask you a question. 3 people, it's a public meeting, 2 people, it's not. What if the meeting is called with 2, and then when the meeting starts, a 3rd director or 4th director comes in? Does that change the dynamic of it?
It becomes an open meeting law
It does.
violation.
If you would prefer to join, that's fine, I could.
It becomes a violation because part of the rule is you need notice.
Right.
I'll have to get a camera from my computer anyway, so go ahead.
So yeah, if you did that, you'd be in trouble.
Not a big deal, and we can
Yes,
come to the
you would
district
be
office and do
violating the
it,
open
because
meetings
Josh
law.
will be on there. So we can just do that here if you want.
Oh,
We're not taking any action, we'll report back to the board, it's just a kickoff kind of meeting, see what we can explore for legislative options. So. That tap fee issue is gonna come back, I think, so. Be good to round up some support beforehand, all right, I will put you on the list then, Art, if that'll be great, good. If nothing else, I'll adjourn the meeting at 10 o'clock.
Oh, right on the money.
Thank you all for this extended time.
Thank you, Carrie.
Are we off?